I was first in Amdram as the baby in Sound of Music when I was about 7. So, and I've done it all my life. I went to stage school as a kid, actually. I went to Italia Conti. So I have always danced, and so it's a big hobby of mine. And I've done Amdram since I left uni as an adult. So lots and lots of stage work, but I get a bigger buzz personally being backstage or being in front of stage and helping choreograph rather than being on stage nowadays. I went to see ballet a lot as a kid, but I think probably it was just seeing a local amateur dramatics group put on a show that had children in it. So I was thinking that could be me, and I want to be in that. So rather than just dancing in a show, you're actually in a whole show and you're part of it, and all the audience laughing and clapping and enjoying it and thinking that sounds really, really good fun. When you're on stage and the audience are with you and they're laughing or they're clapping, that's a huge buzz for everybody. So definitely it's always been a buzz. I think for me, as I've got older, I have a much bigger buzz in terms of creating and choreographing and helping other people be on stage. So I get a much bigger buzz now being the choreographer than being in a show. I am in some shows, but I guess where I get my buzz from has changed for me. Paul's show is different, of course, because Paul has created it from scratch. So it's not like we were all doing Oklahoma and everyone knows the film and everyone knows the show. And if you really wanted to, you could watch it to get some ideas. With Paul's show, obviously, it's totally, totally new. So you hear the music and you've never heard the story, so you've almost got to imagine it from scratch. So, but everyone's so keen, and you've probably picked that up. It's such a social, fun thing that everybody wants to be part of it. And you get to know who are the really good dancers, who maybe have had lots of dancing lessons as kids, and maybe those people that are more comfortable just moving and would prefer to sing. And so you make sure that you give people things that they feel really comfortable with. Chaos. I find as long as I'm planned and ready before I go and know what I want to do, then I'm fine. If I've been really busy with work and I'm having to make it up on the spot, I find that slightly harder. As long as people are really clear of what's expected of them and you explain it fully and they have fun, it's got to be fun. It's a hobby. You know, we're not getting paid to do this, so there has to be an element of taking it seriously and really focusing and concentrating, but they have to have fun as well, so I'll make sure that we do. I always think, especially with a show that nobody knows, because that's a challenge for everybody, that if they get the big picture of why we're doing what we're doing, then it will make a lot more sense to them. So Paul obviously would have started off explaining the whole show. Sue would have made sure that we've read through the show so that everyone gets the story. And then when I choreograph a number, I'll explain where it sits in the show, why it's there, you know, why we're doing this number, what it's about and what the atmosphere should be in that number, like the cowboy number as a really good example. They're schoolboys in a playground and suddenly it should be, you know, why do we have to do homework? If we were cowboys, we wouldn't have to. So the whole thing is that it's the kids' imagination and everybody in it as a cowboy or cowgirl is just these children's imagination, and that's the whole picture. So once they've got the whole picture, I then play the whole music so they get a feel for the whole thing, and then we start breaking it down to what's going to be happening at each stage and who's doing what. So that's actually quite a big number. You've got different groups of people doing different things in that, and as long as they understand the whole picture and why they're doing what they're doing, then I think the steps make more sense. And I think the steps have to make sense in terms of that's what you would do next. Otherwise, why would they do it? So I start off with a big picture and break it down to the detail, and then we start putting it all together, and I just keep reminding them of really what the whole thing's about. I think for me, it has to be, at the end of the day, they are not chorus line. They're not, you know, it's not suddenly a whole chorus line of professional dancers are on stage. It's got to be either these children dancing, pretending to be cowboys, or people in their imagination who are cow people, whether they're cowboys or cowgirls. So the style was very much almost Oklahoma-ish, I guess, and they're sort of yeah type things. So they've all got cowboy hats on, and they all end up doing a big dance when they're all dancing around with their hats, and so it becomes a big Western musical cowboy scene, as in any of the big musicals, I guess. And then so the style of the dancing is very, very much foot stomping, I hate that term, line dancing. There's an element of that, I guess, in it, because there's not so much partner work in it. They're all doing it en masse, so there is a little bit of line dancing. So it's just like any of the big musicals in that way. And it ends up with everybody doing this big romp as if they've just built a barn and off they go, a little bit like Oklahoma, I guess. And then suddenly the school bell goes, the school bell whistles, and the whole scene changes because they all disappear because it's just the kids' imagination. So the dance of it really was a big cowboy number. When I was little, I loved dancing. And when I was little, I wanted to be in the young generation, and I just wanted to dance and say that was me. And I was good at dancing and had lots of opportunity. And so when I went, it was all about being a dancer. And I think for me, as much as I love dancing and still do, clearly, I think I realised probably when I was 16, 17 that I was a good dancer, but probably not strong enough to really make it on the West End stage. And I didn't want to be one of those people that did a bit of dancing here, there and everywhere. And as much as I loved it, I actually changed my mind and I went off to university. And sometimes people say, do you regret that? But no, not really. I think, I know you'll know that being professional in anything is not quite as glorified or as easy as you think. And then I've got a lot of friends who try to be professional dancers. I've got friends who did become professional dancers, obviously. But I never felt jealous because I think for me, genuinely, I just instinctively thought I wanted to go off in a slightly different direction. So I did go off to uni and I have a career that I love. But the fact that I can do this as a hobby as well. And this is, a real fun hobby. And I think actually, genuinely, the standard of amateur theatre in this country is superb. You're going to get some people that just want to do it for fun, but there's an awful lot of really good people that probably could have had the opportunity to go professional if things were different. Lots, actually, because I think there's a huge crossover. So I think it's probably why I enjoy what I'm doing, because as a trainer, I have to be up in front of people and I have to teach them, I have to inspire them and motivate them to want to learn, etc. And I think the crossover is that as a choreographer, that's exactly what I have to do as well. So I have to be organised, which is not me, so I have to work at that. I have to be ready, I have to be passionate myself in terms of where I want to take the people and why on earth they'd want to come with me. And I have to have lots of energy, and I have to get up in front of a whole load of people that are making a lot of noise and get them to shut up and pay attention without feeling as if they're told off or at school. So there's a lot of crossover. Loads of people in this group, loads of couples have met here, and I've known Tim for about 20 years actually. I think I initially met him quite a few years ago. There's a society locally that a lot of people are in from, and a local one in Canfield as well. Both were doing big shows with tap dancing, and I teach tap dancing, so I offered to teach tap dancing to help people be able to tap dance so they could go for the show. And I just said I'll do some tap dancing, and I was expecting a few people to turn up, and we had about 30 or 40 people turn up, so I had to put them into, had never seen a pair of tap shoes in their life, could do a time step and could tap dance. And so I ran the lessons that summer just as a hobby. Again, it was just fun, and that's probably where I first met Tim, so that's going back quite some time. And we actually got together about 5 years ago. I think it's great that we have a shared hobby. I think sometimes the problem is if somebody loves Amdram and their partner's not into it at all, because it takes up a lot of time. It's quite a big hobby. It's quite a big commitment. And you get a bunch of Amdram people together. They're all quite, quite loud and quite... And if you're not into it at all, if your partner's not into it at all, it can make it slightly hard. So the fact that we both enjoy it as a hobby means that we can do it together, so it's not a problem at all. And I just treat him like everybody else when he's out there. We don't take it so seriously that we need to really have to do it at home. I think for Tim, a huge part of it, and he'll probably tell you, is the social side. We have so many of our friends through Amdram. So genuinely, after rehearsal, we very often go for a drink with everybody just to sort of end the evening. And when we go home, other life takes over. I think if anything at home, we haven't got kids, so, but we're both busy working and things. So, as a choreographer, it's probably me more at home because I have to do listen to the music, create the songs, and just keep listening to the music, picture the number, and then start getting all the details of the steps in. so that when I get to rehearsal, I know what we're going to be doing and I know what I'm going to be teaching them. So I'm probably the one who will do that stuff at home. And I might try something out on Tim occasionally. But rarely, actually. I think we just switch off. But it's really, really nice to share a hobby together.